Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Montana Riley and I teach 4th grade in Northern Virginia. I'm so excited to finally be starting my YouTube channel. For today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 tips for first year teachers. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm gonna actually start from the bottom of my list and work my way to the top. So tip number 10 is to not expect yourself to be perfect in your first year of teaching. I am especially guilty for this because when it comes to anything teaching, I want it to look perfect and go perfectly every time, and that is just unrealistic. So when you're a first year teacher, just know that you're gonna learn from your mistakes. One thing that I learned from my first year of teaching is a lot about behavior management. My kids were chaotic and I did not know how to control them. So just be lenient with yourself and allow yourself to make those mistakes because you will learn from them. Tip number 9 kind of goes with tip number 10. When you're a first year teacher, I think it's important to just pick one thing that you want to focus on. For example, in my first year of teaching, I wanted to really focus on my mini lessons. So I wanted my mini lessons to be short and quick, but still engaging and getting the kids involved. So that is something that I focused on all year long. I observed other teachers, I took professional development on it, and I'm really thankful that I focused on that one thing. And then the next year you can pick another thing, whether it's small groups or classroom management, classroom organization, but you can't expect yourself to learn all the things in 1 year and be perfect at all of them. So tip number 9 is to pick one thing and commit to it and learn and grow in that thing. Tip number 8 is to take advantage of your support system, whoever that might be. That might be your friends, your family, or even your team that you're working with, your grade level team, or whoever it is at your school, your mentor. Take advantage of them. This is something I wish I did a little bit more. I spent a lot of time by myself and upset about things going on in my classroom when there was a lot of people who would have been there to support me. So take advantage of your support system and don't be afraid to show them how you're feeling and show them that you might be struggling because they're going to be willing to help you no matter what. Tip number 7 might be one of my favorites because if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I'm an organizational freak. I have a bin and a label for everything in my classroom. So tip number 7 is to set yourself up for organizational success, whether this is your digital files. I think that's really important to set up successfully. And just physically in your classroom. You're gonna thank yourself later, years down the road, when you spent time your first year of teaching, organizing your materials, organizing your files, organizing your binders, and all of that. Get it out of the way now so that you don't have to worry about it later when you start accumulating more things. Tip number 6 is something that I feel really passionate about because I have learned so much from this. So tip number 6 is that Instagram has some of the best professional development for teachers. I don't know any other profession that has this big of a community on Instagram where you're sharing ideas and products and tips and tricks and hacks. And I just learned so much from Instagram. I feel like I'm observing other teachers in their classrooms when I'm scrolling through their feeds and seeing their ideas, learning about their organization, learning about their products. And I just think it's super helpful, and that's something that you should take advantage of and don't be ashamed of it. Tip number 5 is something that I wish I knew more about when I was graduating college and starting to build my classroom library. So tip number 5 is to not go to stores and don't go to Target and Amazon and buy your books for your classroom library. Get donations. Retired teachers, Goodwill, or any thrift store usually has really good books in great condition for really cheap. Facebook Market has a ton of books that you can get from. People are just getting rid of these things, and as a first year teacher, you need to take advantage of this. My first year, when I got into my classroom for the first time, the hallways were filled with things that teachers were getting rid of because every year, every teacher pretty much purges their room or gets rid of things. So take advantage of that. Don't purchase your books for full price and get them cheap or even for free. Tip number 4 is a little random, but bear with me because this is something that I still need to do, but I figured I would share this idea with you because I wish I would have started it my first year of teaching. But now that I'm in my 3rd year, I'm a little behind and have some catching up to do. So tip number 4 is to create something to remember each year of your teaching. So that could be like a scrapbook or buying a yearbook every year or creating like one of those Shutterfly photo books, or I think Chatbooks is another website that does that. I almost envision like a scrapbook with like page protectors, and like you can put your class picture and your like notes from your students in a sleeve. And so each year is a different sleeve. I just think it's important to document each of your years so that later on down the road, you can look at those memories and reminisce on them. All right, we're getting to my top 3 tips, and I'm really excited about these because these are ones I feel really, really passionate about. So tip number 3 is to spend at least your first 2 weeks of school on rules, procedures, and routines with your kids. You will be so thankful that you did this and that your kids know your expectations and know how to move around their classroom, how to ask to go to the bathroom, how to walk in the hallways, because you don't want to be correcting those things like halfway or towards the end of the year because you have a lot of other things to be teaching them. So spend those first 2 weeks, if not more, focusing on what procedures you want them to know, what routines you want them to know, and you'll be so happy and thankful that you did. Tip number 2 is something I am such a firm believer in, and that is to build relationships with your kids before you do anything else. Building relationships with your kids is going to make them want to learn from you. It's going to make them feel loved. It's going to make them feel supported. So when you are building relationships with your students, get to know them. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their hobbies? What are their passions? And incorporate that into your teaching. Like, I teach writing, so I am constantly encouraging my kids to write about what they love, even if we're on like a specific unit. And because I know my kids and I have relationships with them, I can encourage them in their schoolwork and to incorporate those things. And these kids just deserve to feel loved, and they deserve to feel like you care. And it also makes them want to build relationships and friendships with each other. So tip number 2, build relationships with your students. You'll be so thankful that you did. And it makes all the difference in your classroom and your classroom community. Tip number 1 is something that I wish someone told me when I was going into my first year of teaching. And tip number 1 is that you are going to be learning a lot from teachers on your team, in your school, in your community. And a lot of those teachers are going to be veteran teachers that are amazing at what they do, and you're going to learn so much from them. But my tip number 1 is to remember that they are going to be learning from you, because as a first year teacher, you are so energetic about your new job. You're so excited. You have all of these fresh new ideas that you're ready to put into action, and that energy is radiant. And every teacher in your school is going to learn or deserves to learn from you, even though you're brand new, because you have a lot of new ideas, and you should be confident in your strengths and be confident in being a first year teacher, because it's amazing. And your energy is going to motivate other teachers who have been doing this for years. So tip number 1, be confident in yourself, be confident in your strengths, and be proud of being a brand new first year teacher. All right, those were my top 10 tips for first year teachers. I wanted to create this video because these are 10 things that I wish I would have heard or I would have known when I was going into my first year. So I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed my first YouTube video. And if you want to stick around for more videos in the future, you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thank you so much for watching.